just flashing for no reason. Okay. That's gonna make me keep looking at it. I'd like to call this meeting to order. A meeting of the regular meeting of the Village Board on Monday, June 19th at 7 p.m. in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with sections 19.83 and 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all village board members present except for Trustee Pieper, who is excused. At this time, I'll ask us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, nation, indivisible, justice for all. Thank you. Next item is President's Report. The only thing to report tonight is I believe we are just over 2 weeks till the 4th of July, 2 weeks and a day. And just kind of an announcement to let everybody know that there'll be regular festivities we've had, very similar to last year at Fireman's Park, starting with the parade. And with that, if you enjoyed it last year and all previous years, I would ask that you consider to donate some of your time to help make the festival go a little bit better and smoother, and also fill some of the gaps that I know are out there. I still need to go in myself and log in time for volunteering on that day. And I've recruited Carrie, my wife, to do the same. So we will be logging in this week and looking what time slot is needed and what job function. I don't think it'll be together, though. I think we'll be on opposite sides of the park. Might work best. But if anybody would like to do the same, please do so. Log in and volunteer your time. It'll help the festival not only go smoother, but it'll help guarantee a good time for all. Phil, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. And we've already signed you up for 13 slots.
That's fine. That's fine. I plan on being there most of the day anyway, so thank you for that. If there's nothing else to add, that's all I have for President's Report. So we can go to announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee and department reports, starting with committee chairs with Trustee Kaminsky.
Public Works will meet in this room at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, July 12th.
All right, thank you. Trustee Rick Miller.
General Government and Finance will meet in this room at 6 o'clock on July 17th, Monday, July 17th.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Myers. Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Hudson. I'm sorry. Trustee Hudson.
Public Safety will meet in this room at 5:30 on July 10th.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have anything else of interest for forthcoming events or of public interest or committee or department reports they'd like to bring forward? Trustee Rick Miller.
Just a question. We are not having a meeting on July 3rd for Village Board. Is that correct?
It really hasn't been voted upon, has it?
Oh,
Oh, I won't be here.
okay. It's up to the board.
It's not on the agenda. Village Attorney.
Certainly, this body can cancel meetings. We can do that without action. Although I also note that there may be a special meeting next week that we could formally take that action as well.
Okay, that makes sense. That'll allow us to add another item to that agenda then. All right, anything else for forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports? Trustee Chan Miller.
President Walter, you need your mic on. It doesn't
Is it?
sound like any of the mics are on. Oh. But I didn't hear what you said, Brian.
Hello.
No.
Nothing? Nice. This one? This one now?
Hello, hello.
Doesn't sound any loud.
Does it sound like it's working now?
Hello, hello. Testing, testing.
Could you repeat what you said? Couldn't hear over here.
I said that there, certainly this body can cancel a meeting, just by posting a notice that we're going to cancel it. But there is a special meeting, next week that, we could potentially do, that action.
Okay.
What do you mean by special meeting?
It's a good thing you open it.
And I put this in my weekly update that goes out last week that there may be a need for a special meeting next Monday to address a development issue that came to my attention last Friday.
That was in the report.
Oh. Does that have to be voted on as well, or?
No.
Oh. And the date will be the 20,
Yeah, 1 week from today, which would be the 26th.
June.
Possible meeting, yes.
Right. Anything else for announcements of forthcoming events of public interest committee or department reports? If there's nothing else, we can then go to citizen input or public appearance on items that are not subject to a public hearing. There are no public hearings on tonight's agenda, but if there's anyone within our audience or joining us via WebEx that would like to come forward for citizen input or public appearance, you're welcome to do so at this time. If you're within our audience, come to the podium and state your name and your address for the record. If you're joining us via WebEx, please let the moderator know of your intention to participate and we will bring you forward.
Is this working? Can you hear this? Orange.
Microphones are on and we are here from
Okay, fine. I talk loud anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Good. Use your father's voice.
What's that?
Use your father's voice.
Okay. Scott Effley, W159N10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. I did review as much as I could, not 324 pages because I didn't have that kind of time, but I understand there's some action being taken tonight for an interim Department of Public Works. In my opinion, that means that somebody is retiring, which I guess thank him for all his service that he did to the village. And he was a key person. I didn't get to know him well, but on utility advisory, he was very helpful and gave us information that was very helpful to what we're trying to do for help Public Works. But my concern with that is, okay, now we have a void and I don't know of any other engineers we have in our village. I don't know who else is qualified to be an engineer. So who's going to step in and keep track of these many projects we have going on is a concern. I know he'll be here for 3 more weeks, but what's after that? That's a big concern. We need engineering. We have needed that for years and we'll continue to need that. So this is a really desperate need. We need to figure out what to do and how we navigate that if we don't get an engineer right away. So glad we have all you here. All you smart people can figure it out. So that leads me to my next statement, the MMSD agreement that's on the agenda for tonight. I understand they're looking to help us with some development, something with the rec department. I'm a new commissioner on the economic development. I would like to look at some of these plans that we have going on and things like this, you know. And it's also utilities. So I'm on utility advisory. I would like to see some of this information that we are looking at. If it's closed session, I guess I can't look at it, but I would like to see some of these plans we have for the village going forward, because that is definitely part of economic development. So if that could happen, that'd be great. The last thing I'll say tonight is, I know you have a couple things you're going into closed session for, and I know they're related to development. Again, Economic Development Commission, I'm on it, okay? So what don't we have in regards to that? And obviously no one here can comment on it. We do not have a village center plan. We do not. If we did, I would know about it on economic development. We discussed it. We have no master plan for the village center district. We have not done any neighborhood plans, and we don't have a statement or a strategic position from economic development or anyone in regards to what we're doing in that development. So if we're just talking, that's fine. But if we're allowing development with no plan, that is wrought with failure. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input or public appearance? Anyone joining us via WebEx that would like to join or participate? Let me take that as a no.
No.
All right. If there isn't anyone else that would like to come forward, we can then go to the next item on the agenda, which is appointments. starting
Motion
with,
to approve
go ahead.
Roman numeral 7, excuse me.
Motion made. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Motion made and seconded to appoint Lilibeth Yao to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any discussion on that motion to approve? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. That then takes us to consent agenda.
Motion to approve A through P.
Motion made. Is there a second? Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve consent agenda items A through P? Trustee Chan Miller.
I'd like to pull item B as in boy.
Okay. Item B, is there any other discussion on the approval of the consent agenda items A through P? No other discussion? We'll do roll call vote, please.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Baum. Trustee Nyrider.
Aye.
Trustee Hudson. Trustee Myers.
Aye.
And?
President Walter.
Aye.
An important piece.
Motion approved. All right, we'll go to consent agenda item B, which is the resolution adopting 2022 Compliance and Maintenance Annual Report, CMAR, WIDNR. Trustee Chan Miller.
Thank you. My question, I don't know who's here to answer it, would be on page 14 in your agenda packet. And the future planning, it's stated that during the next 10 years, you will be involved in the formal planning for upgrading, rehabilitation, or new construction of your treatment facility or collection system, question mark. Yes, we said yes. Okay, the projects are 1, 2, 3. There's a private property remediation this year for $674,000. Can anyone define that?
So your question is just what is left?
Yes. Thank you.
Larry.
I check in a second. Here's the letter. I project.
Just.
I don't think it's PP&I.
What is
Which-
the program?
Yes, me again.
I program.
Well, the only, the I-9 program we're doing right now is with the grant from MSD for the lateral replacement. Yeah, that isn't an every other year program. That's a grant that we have that's been sitting in a pool of money for the last 13 years. And we're finally at the project's going and we're in the process of completing that work right now in the first 2 phases. It's about a $1.6 million project when it's all done. I'm not sure what the CMI report, I didn't read it this year. I'm not responsible for those, but if that's the question regarding the PP&I program, that's what it is.
It then is, Larry, is the grant for the 1.6 or is the balance $674,000?
It's a grant that we've had since, I want to say they started working on it in 2011 before I was here in 2015. And the money stayed in the pool and we kept up with the MSD to keep the money in the pool so we don't lose any money. And right now there's a balance of funds in there. They look at it, there's like 2 or 3 different funds. So when you report some of it, it gets a little confusing. But if you add it all up, we have about $1.6 million in that pool of money to spend. And we're in the process of spending probably this year with the 2 projects, we will spend all of that. And they're actually looking for some additional funding from other projects that didn't expend all of theirs to give to us a little bit more. We're going to do about 115 houses this year, replacing all their laterals.
Oh, the laterals. Okay.
That's the I&I program. The I&I is infiltration inflow. So rainwater, groundwater. It's removing all that from the laterals going into the sewer system.
I'm still learning. Okay,
It's like the
thanks.
Burr Oak neighborhood, isn't it?
Yes. Glenwood Park
the-
and
Burr Oak.
Oh, yeah. And then number 2 is lift number 2, and that's for 1.2 million. Where is lift number 2?
lift number 2, lift station is on the corner of Sumac and Glenwood or Glenbury. I'm not sure the street name. It's part of the subdivision that we're relaying the sewer and water main in that subdivision this summer.
Okay.
And we're just starting that next week. And we're eliminating that lift station, actually. It's the oldest lift station the village has right now.
Okay, take it out.
And to do that, we have to relay the sewer all the way out to Pilgrim Road, so it's costly doing that. So that's where some of that money is accounted for.
Pilgrim and Fond du Lac, way out
Pilgrim
there.
and Concord, we
Oh,
will be in that street next week blocking traffic, so.
Oh, that's why you're shutting down Pilgrim. Thank you very much. And then the number 3 item is sewer extension to Richfield. It's listed for 2024, $9 million. So can you elaborate on that?
That's the sewer extension that's included in the IGA, the intergovernmental agreement between Germantown and Richfield. And that's the estimated number that was used through that whole agreement. There's no finalized number on it. That's just an estimated number of what was anticipated the cost to be for the sanitary sewer and for the, I'll probably include the easements, Steve, to get through the Freistadt neighborhood.
Okay, but these project descriptions, the 9 million is part of the IGA that would be coming to the village of Germantown. That was my understanding.
And not even coming
Of
to us, we're
Richfield.
not even paying for it. The village of Richfield will be paying for all those costs.
Right.
I think that report's just identifying improvements, isn't it? A dollar value of improvements.
Okay. I wanted to
Yeah,
clarify.
I haven't read one of those reports in years myself, so I'm just going by what I know they remember they were. I don't. Tim Zimmerman fills these out for the sewer utility
Okay,
every year.
so it's more of a project report? This is
Yes,
the estimated cost.
yes. Yep, they,
Doesn't say who's paying for it.
right, and that's, MMSD wants to know what we do. They keep track of us.
They're pretty nosy, just saying. Okay. That answers my question on B. Thank you.
Would you then entertain a motion to approve?
I would entertain a motion to approve consent agenda item B.
Okay. Motion made. Do I have a
Second.
second? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the approval of consent agenda item B? No discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Baum. Trustee Nyrider.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Hudson.
Aye.
President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. That then takes care of all items on consent agenda. We can then go to new business, starting with new business item A, which is Eric and Ashley Evans, located at West 130 North 11622 Harvest Ridge Lot Number 1 in Harvest Hills Subdivision Plat Amendment to revise the Elm Lane access restriction to allow a driveway on Elm Lane. To give us some more information background on this new business item, we'll turn our meeting over to our Community Development Director, Jeff Retzloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Evans own a lot in the Harvest Hills subdivision, shown on the screen, highlighted in red, right in the northeast corner of Harvest Ridge and Elm Lane. The Harvest Hills subdivision plat contains an access restriction prohibiting direct access from lots in the subdivision to Elm Lane. And the Evans preference is to have a driveway on Elm Lane. They have requested an amendment to the subdivision plat to effectively remove that restriction as it applies to their lot. They provided justification, including that the driveway in Harvest Ridge would be closer to the intersection. Visibility on Elm Lane is better for westbound traffic on Elm Lane. There is a common practice to install a driveway on the high side of a lot for grading purposes. The driveway in Elm Lane would be flatter with a 2.9% slope versus a 9.7% slope on Harvest Ridge. And the Harvest Hills Subdivision Homeowners Association deed restrictions require a garage on the side of the lot with the highest elevation. This graphic shows the proposed driveway on Elm Lane for the house designed for the Evans, and this graphic shows the potential driveway on Harvest Ridge if the Elm Lane driveway is not approved. In terms of staff commentary, access restrictions by the village on subdivision plats is a typical occurrence to preserve the through traffic function of abutting collector and arterial roads versus an access function typically served by local subdivision streets. This particular lot obviously abuts both Harvest Ridge and Elm Lane. Elm Lane, in staff's opinion, still has opportunity for being extended and completing a connection between Country Air to the west and Wasaki to the east. And for that reason, staff, myself, is not in favor of the driveway on Elm Lane, thinking long-term in terms of preserving function for Elm Lane if and when it ever is connected. However, the Public Works Director has commented, reviewed the situation, and he supports the Elm Lane driveway request, indicating that the Elm Lane driveway possesses a less risk to traffic relative to the Harvest Ridge driveway proposal. The Plan Commission recommendation, after considering all of the information at their last meeting, is to approve the request to revise the Elm Lane access restriction on the Harvest Hills subdivision plat. A resolution has been prepared, included in the packet to that effect, subject to one condition, that the nearest point of the driveway be located not closer than 120 feet to Elm Lane as shown on the proposed site plan on the screen. And that graphic's included in the resolution as well. I believe Mr. Evans is here and is interested in saying a few words.
Motion to approve new business A.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, Mr. Evans. There you go.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Maybe.
Maybe?
There you go.
I'll get it figured out. All right. My name is Eric Evans, and yes, as Jeff was saying, I am the owner of Lot 1 there in Harvest Hill subdivision. I'm actually going to be building the home too. I work for Tim O'Brien Homes as a construction manager. I've been with Tim O'Brien Homes now for 6 years, and with about 150 homes I've built underneath my belt. So a lot of the how you build things and where you place a home on the lot is something we do on a daily basis. And placing the home on Elm Lane with the driveway on Elm Lane, from a builder standpoint, definitely is the most common sense. Can totally understand the road that could go through in the future, but I would really think that the safety of my family and stuff with the slope of the driveway is something that really speaks to why we're asking for this amendment. Basically for the words that Larry spoke about in his statement, for the visibility concerns, but with my 3 little kids, there will be bikes, balls, and other activities being done in the driveway. I also look at the winter months for the safety of my family and my aging parents. It's already a challenge to have proper traction during those months, and a flatter driveway will give us a fighting chance. And I don't know if any of you have been out to that lot, but basically as you drive on Harvest Ridge heading north, the lot does slope down pretty drastically, the topography of the lot. So that's the low side, and the high side is basically on Elm Lane. So maintaining common building practices, balancing out driveway slope, and placement of the garage on the high side of the lot And getting the driveway to exit on the Elm Lane would be the best way to achieve this. And then lastly, just with the amount of driveways on Elm Lane, I know some of these are obviously like older homes or existing homes, but there are currently 7 driveways from Wasaki to my property on Elm Lane. Then that little stretch there off of Forest Drive and Elm Lane, there's 2 existing homes and 1 new home under construction, actually, Stort's Custom Home, that is exiting on Elm Lane as well. So if that was ever to go through, my home would not be the only road or only exit onto Elm Lane. But also with understanding that it's a 25-mile-an-hour road and, you know, at the end of the day, just looking at safety wise for my family, my kids with a flatter driveway. That's all I really have to say.
Okay, thank you for coming forward. Further discussion on a motion to approve? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Aye. Opposed, raise your hands. 4 opposed. That's a tie. You can do it again. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. Opposed, raise your hands. 4. 4. Motion fails. Try another motion. Anyone? You could have the, to include the restriction of 120 some feet away from the intersection to make sure that it is at a minimum of. It wasn't, well, I don't know if it was in the original motion as stated, but it's part of the
Minimum
agreement.
120-foot setback, if you will, was included in the
Okay.
resolution.
Trustee Baum?
So years ago, when those subdivisions were done, we talked about the need for Elm Street to go through. And the residents came through and petitioned to have Forest Drive be a dead-end drive and the developments to the north to be disconnected from the Forest Drive development. The problem that we saw at the Plan Commission back then was this road is actually intended to be a link between Wasaki Road and Country Air so that you can shut down Mequon Road, divert up to there through this development and then back down. So that really becomes more of a high use road in the future as opposed to just a subdivision road. And that, I believe, is where we came up with the thought process that we shouldn't have so much access to that road.
When the development came forward,
What about the existing driveways?
they've been there for,
They've been there for,
Oh,
yeah.
but there's a new one coming in, we just heard.
I don't know where the new one coming in is.
It's their only means of access. This lot has 2 choices. The other property does not.
Okay.
Trustee Rick Miller?
I just have one more question. If you do want to put the driveway on Elm Lane, you have to turn the house 90 degrees, so your backyard is now north rather than east. Is there a reason that it's beneficial to do that?
So you're saying it would have to be turned from what is current?
That's the proposed for the Elm Lane driveway.
Correct.
If you go to the other one,
Correct.
you're turning your house 90 degrees and now your backyard is to the east.
So subdivision requirements, you need a side entry garage or a canted garage. You can't have a front facing garage. So your garage doors need to be opposite of the front door. Or the canted garage is suffice for that.
Okay, but that's the only reason, not topography or anything else? that
Topography
makes it-
does state for this reason, you actually get a better use of your backyard. Your whole backyard can now be a full half, or is all exposed. It's actually a half exposure. So you would actually have the entire, from the sides sloping down, your entire house, then entire backyard is all exposed with like windows and stuff like that. So it's actually a kind of more expensive home to build with it actually being more exposure currently, like that layout there. Because you're going to have more windows, more exposure on that backside because it slopes that way towards the north. If you were to have your home turned.
It slopes down towards the north.
Correct.
So you would propose an exposed basement then,
It's
or a
half
partial?
exposed, partial exposure. Correct. And we do have room to go even further down. When you look, there's like 36 feet from the corner of the garage to the lot line. I believe the side setbacks are 25 feet. So we could move that home down another 11 feet. So you'd be actually, your driveway would be, more like 130 some plus feet away from that corner. I know the side setbacks are 25 feet.
The other two lots, the one to the north and the one to the east, either one you would be looking at a side view of the house, is that
That's
correct?
Here. So
That's what?
It's an outlot.
Oh, it's an outlot. Oh, I didn't.
And this home here, their backyard is basically here. It's a cul-de-sac up here.
Okay. Oh, so it's not directly,
Yeah,
I see it now.
It shows that.
okay.
But yeah, I could,
Would turn it 90 degrees. I mean, to me, I looked at that and it's more attractive as well to put the driveway on Elm Lane. You've got a better backyard. You have an outlot behind you,
Mhm.
so there's no neighbors to your rear then.
correct. And then they're not backyard to backyard then either. Then the neighbors in the cul-de-sac, they're actually looking at kind of more my side of the garage and kind of they have nice privacy as well. So it's still keeping a subdivision that has a lot of privacy, where it's not house on house on house. You're actually maintaining that pretty well. And even if you had to shove that back to kind of help out your cause there with getting a little bit further away from the corner, there's room to move that over further.
And based on the pushback we got when we were talking about proposing it going to Forest Drive and keeping, going Elm Lane so that it opened up into Forest Drive, there was a big backlash. I don't see the likelihood of that happening, or even let alone getting the country air.
You don't ever see that road going through the country air is what you're saying?
Not saying never.
We have right of way.
We still have right of way, and the State Department of Transportation has it as as something that we need to considerably strongly look at because of the State Highway Mequon Road. If it ever needs further construction, they want another way to get east and west and be able to divert.
That's too far.
I'm just stating what I've heard in the past at previous meetings of what the request was from the State Department of Transportation. Planner Retzlaff.
I was just going to add that the restriction has been on the plat since the beginning, before there were any homes, before there was any homeowner association restrictions or requirements for garages not facing front doors. Frankly, I don't see how the design that you have complies with that because it is a corner lot. It's an odd situation. And it's a fairly typical situation where it's important before you decide on a house design and layout, you consider what the parameters are for the property that you're considering buying. I don't know what process you went through, how many different designs or layouts or orientations you went through to come up with your proposal before you bought the lot. But it is a little bit of a backward situation in that you've designed the house, you've laid it out, you've got it all figured out, and then you've come to the village to ask us to acquiesce on our restriction. And it's sort of a classic property owner, homeowner association desire versus the village goal, if you will, of preserving the function of the road. But, how wide of a gap between those two are, it's difficult to say because of the circumstances.
I can speak a little bit to that for sure. When we purchased the lot, we were given the plat survey of the whole subdivision, which yes, that restriction is in that plat survey. But also when you look at the master grading plan that's been approved for the subdivision, and actually I don't know if that's in here or not. I have copies here. The master grading plan shows the driveway on Elm Lane. So when you look at a picture of the master grading plan, it actually shows your best use of kind of where that would be.
Which is a developer product, not a village approved subdivision plat.
So when you're looking at that, visually, you say, okay, your eyes are drawn to the visual side and going, well, yeah, obviously they're gearing up this driveway to be off of Elm Lane. And now we're even doing one better of getting it further off the corner. I mean, you wouldn't want a driveway that close to the corner, but this is an approved grading plan. And that's kind of where I don't see how, I don't know who approved that grading plan and how that was given to me and as the homeowner of purchasing the lot. So when you kind of see contradicting information, how do you know which one is true or not?
Well, I guess at that point, you'd come to the village and ask.
And my HOA did that back in March. I was kind of on a standstill waiting for approval from HOA.
Well,
And
We've been talking, we already voted on it.
they inquired documentation from the village and stuff like that, and trying to figure, and that's when Larry got involved a little bit, and Alan, the building inspector. Even Alan, your building inspector, states that a driveway with that amount of pitch is not safe. That's kind of really where that stands.
But that's contradictory to what's in our own design manual, where it speaks to 12 to 15% being a maximum grading for a local street driveway. That's neither here nor there. I mean,
12%, again, building 150 plus homes, I've had one home at 9%. You as a builder, you wouldn't build a home at 12% driveway pitch.
so there's no way to modify your lot.
Your home would have to be on the lowest side of the lot, or the driveway, I'm sorry. You'd have to put the driveway all the way down over here, which then your driveway to your home is about a 10-foot difference in height. But you can do that. Called drop garage. You can drop your garage, so your driveway in theory is flat, but now you would have a dozen plus steps, 20 steps going up to your home and in your garage to get up to the home. And I know that there's no home in the subdivision like that either. And that wouldn't pass HOA approval as well. So yes, there are ways to do that. You go out to Sussex and Lannon and Lisbon where the high water table is. You have to be 3 feet above the high water table, around the seasonal high groundwater table. And yeah, those driveways are either steeper or there's a lot of drop garages. Drop your garage, put stairs in your garage, or a bunch of stairs going in the front. And that really, if we don't have to do that, and it's one more driveway on Elm Lane, I just don't see, I can understand the future, but also this is the here and now,
So is your backup plan to do just that?
More than likely not, because that won't be approved by the HOA. They've already told me they won't approve a drop garage, because there's no other home in the subdivision that has that. It's a total different look for the subdivision. I mean, it's completely different aspect.
Can I see that aerial again, Jeff? Sure. You're kind of not in the subdivision though. You're kind of outside of it. I mean, if your driveway went to that cul-de-sac, then I would say you're in it. But you're kind of on the outskirts.
Well, the
Even though
lot.
your HOA and everything else is part of it, you're really, it's not inside of it, it's on the outside of it.
Yeah, but it's still part of the Harvest Hills subdivision.
It is.
That
Yeah.
lot one is. And
But
that's
you're saying it would be dramatically different from the surrounding houses. Anybody driving through that neighborhood would probably not even see your house
HOA,
and say that looks different.
they would not, and again, that's again, just when we drop garage, we're talking 4 feet
Mhm.
drop, right? So you'd have 4 steps in your garage, 5 steps. Now you're talking dropping of 10, 12 feet of height difference between the low side here and like something else to think about is your septic system. Septic is back here, and again, that requirements, you have to be 45 feet off the road. If you're trying to push further down the lot this way, now you're against your septic area as well, back there. So again, kind of, is it worth all this different stuff just to get that, looking at it, a lot to do. And I mean, you know, if you can do it, you know, and the other way around that is approving the driveway on Elm Lane with even moving it further, if that's a better thing to do.
Trustee Kaminsky.
I personally don't see the problem with this. When I look at all the driveways that are already there, the remote possibility of us extending to Country Air, like, when is that gonna happen? Like,
That could happen next year. You
it
don't know.
won't, you know it won't. And even if there was one more driveway there, look at all the driveways on Freistadt Road. Look at all the driveways on streets where you can go 50 miles an hour. I mean, to me, this is a residential area and it's a driveway. I just think that we're blowing this all out of proportion. And I would have no problem if somebody wanted to reconsider this.
I think part of the reason that some people are voting that way is because it was they went through, and probably you too, went through the public hearings of when this subdivision was proposed. And there were a fair amount of people in that neighborhood that were concerned about using Elm Lane to get to Mequon Road as a shortcut, and they didn't want the traffic. And at the same time, when we were looking to improve Elm Lane, and not even push it all the way through, but improve it to the park, we had a lot of people come out and speak against that and keep it as a walking path for the same concern. So there are people within that neighborhood that are concerned against any improvement or addition traffic on Elm Lane. And when the subdivision went through, and as part of that approval, that's what the Plan Commission and the Village Board chose to approve. This gentleman bought his property on the hope that it would give access to Elm Lane, knowing that there was a possibility of a requirement having to stay on that particular item. I understand his arguments, but he also had a piece of property that had a requirement on it that it had to have a driveway going within the roads of the subdivision. So now we come to today.
Mhm.
You know, it's a driveway. If it's away from that corner, I probably feel better about it. But as far as being part of the approval of voting in favor of keeping the driveways within the subdivision, I'm kind of going against what I voted for the first time.
Just a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the people would react if we told them we're extending Elm Lane to Country Air? I mean, you think you had a bad reaction before because they want to keep it rural and residential, like a walking path. I think that's the anti-walking path. If we're creating a connection to Country Air, my gosh, I'll be with those people complaining about that.
Country Air connection is part of future planning. So the easement is still there, the right of way is still there. And when it becomes a reality, we may not be here. But the truth of the matter is that it's planned for a future access. And the Wisconsin Department of Transportation would prefer it as a secondary road off of Mequon to help not only alleviate traffic, but for use when they do repairs to either the intersection of where the railroad tracks are or any of the other intersections that connect to that area. And it's been stated in several reports that we've all probably been involved in, and so have you as part of the Department of Public Works. But is it going to happen in my lifetime? I don't know.
No.
But I know it's there as a possibility. So with that in mind, that's one of the reasons that we also made the alternative discussion to make sure that there weren't additional driveways. The driveways that are there are because that's the only access they have. This one has a choice, one or the other. The other driveways were there because that's the only choice they had. And they've been there for 50 years, 60 years. They're usually more established homes. So, you know what, I'm not here to be a hard guy, but I know I did vote for that when it came through, and there was a fair amount of residents within that neighborhood that were concerned about it. So that's why I'm standing where I stand. I was probably one of the few people on the Plan Commission that voted against it as well. And I know David did as well, for the same reason. So that's our reason. You can go, Trustee Kaminsky.
No, I'm just going to go right back to my comment. We're talking about one driveway, and that we think these people who came out and were all upset about keeping this a walking path, you think they'd rather have that one driveway, or you think they'd rather have a thoroughfare going to Country Air? That's what we're proposing here, that we're going to cut it all the way through Country Air at
It's
some
not a
point.
if or and, it's just the way it was set up in the beginning. All I'm standing by is how it was set up in the beginning. the thoroughfare to Country Air is a possibility and is a planned possibility, but it isn't a reality. And that's not the reason why I'm saying that I'm voting against it because we have voted for it based on when that neighborhood first came in. Trustee Jan Miller.
My comment is, you stated that, Mr. Evans, you stated that you have worked on or built 150 homes, probably multiple subdivisions, et
Correct.
cetera.
Correct. Different municipalities, different subdivisions.
Sure. So you know the codes and things like that. So one of the things that I was aware of, or I wanted to be specific when I bought a home in Germantown, was the HOA. And so and you're building your house saying that you're trying to build with the HOA rules and that the drop garage is
Correct.
not going to fit what they really specify. So the HOA specified that you have the driveway on the, whatever that road is, Harvest Ridge. So but the expectation would be you already have the plan, you already have a with the driveway to Harvest Ridge. So I don't,
I guess.
has that been approved by the
So HOA
HOA?
approved my home off of Elm Lane. Because then I inquired back in March, February, kind of as we started figuring some stuff out. Because HOA saw that the plat survey stated this, but the master grading plan showed the driveway off of Elm Lane. So I asked my HOA president, what can we do? Let us get back to you. She came and talked to somebody here, got documents from the village of Germantown. And a week later, she said, you have the approval to have your driveway on Elm Lane. So I also take that as I had approval from you guys.
Do you have those documents? I'd like to see them.
I have, so in some of that literature or in some other stuff,
So-
I have my full approval
so
from HOA.
You just referenced something very, very specific.
Okay,
And-
yes.
And this is very important to me. So do you have proof that the village of Germantown in March said that you could do this? Because that's just what you said.
The HOA, my HOA, via email, told me, yes, that the village, they looked at documents from Village of Germantown and they got approval to do this, for me to have my driveway on Elm Lane.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to postpone this
Well, and
until the next village board meeting so we can see
Or
the
the next-
documents.
The next special village board meeting?
That's fine. Yes. So we can look at the documents that he references.
Can I just interrupt though? It's about the documents. And again, when I say documents, they got documents or they're asking for documents from the village. And I think they're requesting documents. From my knowledge, it's not that they got approval from any one of you or Alan or Larry. It's not like they got approval from somebody. They were requesting, I believe, all the stuff that they had, but the grading plan and the plat survey, so the HOA could do their due diligence.
So maybe my question wasn't specific enough, so I apologize.
Sure.
I thought you made the statement that your village HOA president contacted the village of Germantown
Mhm.
and got approval for you to put the driveway on Elm Lane. Did I misunderstand
Then
your
that would be
statement?
false then. They got documents and the HOA gave me approval after looking at the documents.
That's very different. Thank you. I withdraw the motion.
Okay. We don't have any motion or anything. It's just kind of an open discussion, which is kind of outside the realm of decorum. So if anybody else doesn't want to propose a change or do a reconsideration, I think that we move on. Nothing? In favor. Well, it's tied, right? So it could be anybody.
No, it would have to be somebody who's opposed.
Oh, okay.
Give me a change. What do you want to change? I'll make the motion.
You're gonna make it up.
I don't want anything changed.
Then
I don't want to change anything. But if you think it's gonna pass with a different number or something,
it's me.
No motion? Then my recommendation would be to contact Jeff and see what other alternatives you have for bringing this forward at this time. Or maybe when there's a full board, it can be brought forward, because then you would have the additional vote. I don't know if it'd be for or against. I have no idea, but it would be more regulated to be a 5-4 rather than a 4-4.
So I'm on hold until it like do.
You're actually not on hold. You've been denied. The motion failed, but if there's something that can be talked about or discussed to bring forward back through, the department within Jeff's realm would be able to help you with that and discuss that with him.
Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming tonight. Before we go on to the next item of new business, gentlemen in the back, are you here for the liquor license for Das Ballroom? We approved that during consent agenda, but if you want to stay with us, you're always welcome, and we appreciate everybody that wants to come to the village board meetings, but if that was your original intent, that was approved during consent agenda. All right, then we'll go back to new business item B, increased cost for DOT project at Landon and Maple Roads.
Motion to approve new business B.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Anybody want information from Mr. Ratachik? Trustee Jan Miller. Larry would love to.
Larry, could you break it down and tell me where we're getting these funds? Thank you.
The funds, our portion of this project, this is a HISA funded project.
What?
And a HISA funded project through the state of Wisconsin. And so it's a 10% funded project. And so the original estimate to us was that it was going to be around $800,000 total. So our portion would be 80,000. And that was in the 2023 budget from ARPA funds. It was applied from ARPA funds. And we're suggesting that the remaining $209,611 be also taken out of the ARPA funds. The ARPA funds we were given $750,000 for roads. And so we took the 80,000 out. So there's about 670,000 left in there for roads. And this would, since it was originally budgeted from that, we would suggest it come from the ARPA funds that was designated for road.
Then you take the 209 out of the 670.
Yes.
The balance. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Further discussion? No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Baum.
aye.
Trustee Nyrider. Trustee Myers.
Aye.
Trustee Hudson. President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item under new business is item C, appointment of Zachary Kessler as Germantown Village Clerk. Motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion or information from Village Administrator Steve Krecklo?
Is he here?
He is. Zach, if you want to stand up?
Could you tell us a few things about him, or?
Sure, I can provide some information. This is Zachary Kessler, who we're recommending for appointment as the new village clerk. Zach is currently a deputy city clerk with the city of Wauwatosa. He's also served in the City of Milwaukee Health Department and the New Berlin Park and Rec Department, so he does have some municipal experience. He is currently enrolled in the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh Masters of Public Administration program and is about halfway through his coursework there.
Questions? Trustee Baum? There, if you want to talk, there you go.
Interesting.
It's a strange concept.
Yeah.
Like Germantown, what made you,
Well, actually, to be completely honest, Steve reached out to me. And just after talking with him a few times, it made sense. So I live in Milwaukee, 80th and Keefe, and like Steve said, I work for the city of Wauwatosa, so that's where I spend most of my time. But you know, Germantown, it seems like an excellent opportunity for me, the next step in my career. You know, I've been the deputy clerk, so village clerk is the next step. But yeah.
Mr. Nyrider, I'm sorry, Trustee Nyrider.
Long-term for a master's in public administration, is it long-term for you to be more or to eventually lead your way up as a administrator?
Yeah, so my long-term goal is to be a city administrator or a city manager. You know, that after taking some classes through UWO, that MPA program, after meeting some professionals in the municipal government field, that profession is the one that I would like to pursue at this point in time, city manager, city administrator. Of course, you know, I'm pretty early on and pretty young. I haven't finished my program. You know, that being said, that could change, of course. But as of right now, yeah, my long-term goal is to be a city manager or administrator. You know, what I found so far is that every single city manager or administrator that I've met has been incredibly over the top supportive. There's a lot of support and enthusiasm in the profession, which is really great for up and coming you know, young professionals. So I think it's a good place to plant my feet. And, you know, kind of like I said, next step in my career is, you know, the head clerk position. So, you know, you have the position available here in Germantown, and it just seemed like a good fit. So, yeah.
Any further questions, discussion? Trustee Jan Miller?
So this was published, and I was just curious, and this is for Mr. Krecklow. Did we get other applications? I just was curious.
Yes, we did get other applicants. I believe about 12 to 15 total applicants. There were 3 individuals who, after reviewing the applications, we believed were, you know, met the qualifications we were looking for, including Mr. Kessler, and we brought them in for interviews. During the process, one of the other candidates accepted a village clerk position with another municipality, and there was a panel, including the village attorney and the support services manager. We all agreed that that Zach was the best candidate. We recommended him to the village president.
Very good. So we're at least getting some.
So, and if I could just, as a point of information, and you might also be interested that Zach and I did not know each other at all before the position opened up, even though I live in Wauwatosa. I actually did go through, when we posted the position, I went through all of my LinkedIn connections and reached out to several others, including Zach, and ended up with some follow-up conversations. And, you know, as he stated, I think as he learned more about Germantown, he found it to be a good opportunity. And as we learned more about Zach, we thought he'd be a good fit.
And with our offer, we didn't make any friends in Wauwatosa. They really
may
wanted
not be
to
allowed
keep him.
back.
Well,
Thank you.
yes, welcome. And just to follow up, Mr. Kreckler, do we have anything on the horizon for deputy clerk?
We actually have extended an offer for a deputy clerk position for one candidate, and we're waiting to hear back from her.
Further discussion on the motion to approve? No further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Baum. Trustee Nyrider. Trustee Myers.
Aye.
Trustee Hudson. President Walter.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you
Remember,
all.
you get what you ask for. I'm just kidding. No, we're very happy to have you. And if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us. And we look forward to working with you. I'm sure you've got a 2-week notice or whatever week notice. And our first day is slotted as.
We're actually meeting on Wednesday to work that out. Zach was working with his current employer on an end date, and he also has, he's scheduled to attend the municipal clerks training session up at UW Green Bay in July. So we're working through some of those details, but it will be sometime in July.
Okay, Aaron pushed for something earlier.
Ah,
Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
thank you.
Next item under new business is item D, authorization to enter into contract for recruitment services for a public works director and village engineer.
Motion to approve new business D.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Village administrator.
I can provide some background. Unfortunately for us and unfortunately for him, Public Works Director Larry Ratajczyk has announced that he is going to be retiring from the village effective on July 14th. In addition, the village engineer position has been vacant for an extended period of time and we have been marketing those positions and have found them very difficult to fill. I am recommending, and I had conversations last week with representative from Public Administration Associates. Some of you may remember them from a few years ago. They did come in and do some organizational analysis, updating position descriptions, et cetera, for the Public Works Department. And they would be interested in working with the village for recruitment services to fill not only the Director of Public Works, but also the village engineer position. They did not have time to submit a formal proposal before we were able to submit the packet for this week, but they estimated that the cost would be about $10,000 to $15,000 for each position, and compared with other quotes I've seen recently and in the past, I think it's a reasonable price for those services. So therefore, I'm requesting that the village board authorize me to enter into a contract with Public Administration Associates for those services in an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Trustee Hudson.
Is it a retained or a contingent recruiting firm, please?
And I haven't seen the proposal yet, but typically Public Administration Associates does not do this on a contingent basis. They charge an hourly rate for their services.
And then is there a guarantee on the hire? So if they leave within X period of time, will they find us another one for no additional cost?
Again, I haven't seen the proposal, and that's something that I could negotiate with them.
Thank you.
I do think, Trustee Hudson, that my recollection dealing with them in other instances that they do that, or at least they offer that as a term of their contracts.
Thank you.
Trustee Nyrider.
That question of the guarantee was what I was going to ask as well, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further discussion? No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Miller, or Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Baum,
Aye.
Trustee Nyrider, Trustee Myers,
Aye.
Trustee Hudson,
Aye.
President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item is new business item E, authorization to enter into contract for interim director of public works services.
Motion to approve new business E.
Motion made. Do we have a second?
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Or trustee Hudson?
Yeah, I'll admit that I have some concern using the same firm that's gonna do the recruitment and potentially charge us by the hour, and then outsource the position that they're recruiting for. So, I mean, that,
I mean, or Mr. President.
Yep, village administrator.
And this is a little bit unique, and Public Administration Associates is a bit different in their business model than some of the other firms that do recruitment. They're comprised primarily of retired city administrators, village administrators, public works directors, village engineers, police chiefs, fire chiefs, et cetera. And the business model that they typically use is we would, if this is approved, it likely have the same individual who would be providing the temporary services would be the lead in the recruitment and would be a retired public works director from another municipality. So it is a business model that they do utilize on a regular basis. It results in significantly lower hourly rates. The $70 to $90 range is roughly half of what we're paying for similar level of engineers from some of the larger engineering firms that we're utilizing. The other, I guess, the other component to this is the model or the method that they use for their recruitment services relies heavily on networking. So as individuals who are retired after lengthy careers in these fields, they tend to have know a lot of people and are reaching out and making those contacts, for people that they've worked with in the past, that they've come across in the past in their careers.
so that's what good recruiters do. So this is just an attempt to hire model then really is what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Further discussion? Trustee Chan Miller.
I agree with Trustee Hudson. I think that if we hire the person that's looking for someone to take the position, they're not doing the full job. We have done business with Grafe, Foth, I mean, how many different engineering companies? And they know exactly the projects that we're working on. Let's focus, let's have one person focus on projects and one person focus on recruiting. I think it just makes sense.
Village administrator.
If I could just add, I actually did reach out to Grafe and ask if they would be interested in providing these types of services. They are doing quite a bit of work for us. They did indicate that they could help out to some extent on projects. But they said they currently have 40 engineering vacancies within their company, and they do not have the capacity to provide, what I was looking for. I think what's important, we have somebody in the building 2 or 3 days a week, and they were not able to, they said they did not have the staff availability to provide that. There's other engineering services, but I think I'm going to hear very much the same thing from other engineering services.
Or a higher cost, right?
Or a cost that probably is double what PAA is proposing.
I understand what you're saying. We've been paying double for engineers anyway. I don't see any downside to that. We know what an engineer costs. We know what we're going to have to pay for an engineer going forward. And let's get a real engineer to follow up. There are other companies that we deal with that have engineers. I just don't want to take someone that's retired and split his time between actual work and recruiting. That's not the function. Let's just get him as a recruiter.
Further discussion? No further discussion? Yeah, it's tonight. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Jan Miller.
Nay.
Trustee Baum. Trustee Nyrider. Trustee Myers.
Aye.
Trustee Hudson. President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item under new business is intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the, wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry, facility usage agreement, which would be item F, facility usage agreement between the Village of Germantown and the Germantown School District. Motion made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded.
Question, is there any significant changes from our previous agreement?
No significant changes. It's just extending it through the end of next summer.
No price hikes?
The prices per the agreement are set through a schedule that the school board adopts on an annual basis that for charges not only to the village, but also to other entities. And we're at the low end of that schedule. I did pull out the numbers for what we've paid the past few years, and it's been steady at about $60,000 to $65,000 per year, and expect that it'll continue in that range.
Okay. Further discussion? Trustee Myers.
Not totally related, same school system. When are we going to have a meeting with them?
It is something that I've had conversations with the superintendent about, and both the school board and the village board are both interested in having a meeting. I think the superintendent of schools felt that we needed some additional work on an agenda, and we are planning to meet again, probably over the summer, to talk a little bit further about that.
Thank you.
Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next item under new business is item G, intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewer District and the Village of Germantown for acquiring lands for green seams and comprehensive outdoor recreation plan.
Motion to approve new business G.
Motion made. Do we have a second? Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Village Administrator, anything to add?
Sure. This is a cooperation agreement with MMSD that staff from the village, including the village attorney, community development director, parks and rec director, and myself have been working on with them for a while now. And the gist of it is that it is a framework that would allow MMSD and the village to agree to transfer specific parcels that MMSD has acquired as part of their Green Seams program to the village when the village believes that there is a benefit, in particular, in achieving the outcomes of our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. So to be more specific, the MMSD focuses on parcels that are near waterways. and they've acquired several. They're in the process of acquiring more as time goes on. And many of these parcels are located in areas that have been identified for recreational trails as part of the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. This does not involve the transfer of any specific parcels. It just creates a framework that when there are opportunities to do that in the future, that we can bring those forward both to the MMSD Commission and to the village board. So, and there are some parcels that I think, as we continue to work on this, potentially even as early as the end of this year, could be cited as things that the village may have interest in, and then that would be brought back to the board for a separate approval.
Trustee Jan Miller.
If some areas have been identified, why don't we get a map? Why isn't there a map attached to the proposal?
Because this does not involve the transfer of any properties. So the map would come with the properties when those properties are proposed for transfer. If you'd like, and we did not include it in the packet, but I can send you, I believe I have a map of the MMSD parcels that they do own in the village, and I can forward that if that's of interest to you. There have been some properties that I have briefed the board on in closed session in the past, and they were done in closed session because MMSD was negotiating with those property owners for price, and that was one of the reasons that information was not discussed publicly, and one of the reasons that a map would only include properties that they currently own, not properties that they're attempting to acquire.
Well, they're acquiring the property as Green Seams in the Germantown area. They already have property too, right?
Yes.
So it would be good to have what do they own now? What are they looking to acquire? How is that going to benefit us based on what plan? The 2050 plan, we have different areas, right? We have Holy Hill, Freistadt, Village Center. There's several different areas. So what are we talking about here? What area?
One of the properties that they've that I believe they're closing on it later this week is along Goldendale Creek, and is a site. And again, this is one I've briefed the board on in the past. Would potentially be a location for a trailhead for the Goldendale Creek recreational trail.
That would connect up to the one coming behind Holy Hill Road and 145.
So is there any money that would exchange between the Village of Germantown and Green Seams?
No.
Does it have anything to do with our current parks?
No.
Not the agreement is merely a vehicle of transference, and then as they bring the properties forward, it will be the outline of how they're transferred and how they're brought forward. Each piece of property could have a different set of guidelines of what the uses could be depending on where that property is. They own a fair amount of property around Wilderness Park. We are the donut of the property they own. Wilderness Park is in the middle of many properties they own up in that area, and for good reason, because it's kind of the beginning of the Little Menominee River, so they like to manage that water there. The other one that we know of for sure is the Lambs property, which is along Maple and kind of runs up towards along Goldendale. At one time, that was proposed as a possible subdivision, but that couldn't be acquired because of some wetland areas. So the gentleman that owned that property was able to work out a deal with MMSD Green Seams for a transference of property based on an agreed amount. In most cases, they strike their deals with their private landowners and an agreed amount. And then the long-term goal is for them to then transfer that property to the village for some sort of leisure trails or nature trails or some sort of low impact. It's rarely used for soccer fields or anything that would have a heavy nitrate use on it, or any type of chemical treatment. It's usually a low impact, low compression, not a lot of parking lots kind of thing,
Right.
as well, because they don't want that running off in that area.
Right. And so, was this brought to, the Park and Recreation Board?
Not until we have a property, this is just an agreement between us and them. So if there's a property to come forward, it would probably go through Park and Rec as a beginning, yeah. But this is not that, this is an agreement between the village and MMSD, so it doesn't really involve the Park and Rec committee as a separate until there is an actual property to discuss.
And how long is the agreement for? Was it 2027?
It terminates on December 31st, 2027 unless extended. And if I could just clarify my answer about the parks, it does not involve any, it would not directly involve any like purchase of our parks or anything that would directly affect our parks. It is possible that MMSD would look at purchasing land adjacent to our parks. And if the village wanted it, would turn it over to us to add space to the parks.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Trustee Myers.
Is there any land that they're looking at west of Goldendale from Holy Hill to Flagstaff?
We don't know.
I will say Germantown is one of their primary areas of emphasis, if not the primary of emphasis for the Green Seams program. So they are kind of continuously looking at a lot of properties. And their goals are not going to change. They're going to continue to try to acquire properties that meet their goals. And in some cases, the village wouldn't have any reason or any interest in owning those properties. But there may be others where there is an interest if there is an interest on our part to take these properties, MMSD would like to turn them over because it reduces some of their own cost and of maintaining and dealing with illegal dumping or things like that could occur. So when we're interested, they would like to give us the property so that we're responsible for them, but they're going to purchase properties based on trying to achieve the goals of their program.
Twofold, because one of the things, this board approved the recreation study for possible trails in the future. And I was just wondering if that was in that area that they might be looking at. The second thing is in regard to the road that we want to go through in regard to sewer and water from Ridgeville going through that area. That's why I was asking if there was any land that you were aware of that they were looking at in that area.
Like I said, I know that they've had conversations in the past with probably every property owner along the Goldendale Creek. And, I'm not aware, I don't know the status of the discussions that they have, as they go on.
Thank you, Steve.
Further discussion? Trustee Kaminsky.
First of all, if you go on the website, you can download all the properties that they have in Germantown, because I know I've done that years ago, back when the golf course, Blackstone Creek, was a huge issue on this village board. That's got to be 10 years ago, if not more. But I guess my comment on this is we could end up getting surprised by Green Seams that they are purchasing something that we might really want to have as a park. Because Green Seams, no matter what they tell you, will let you do nothing in that park except walk on a trail. Or if you live out where I live, you can hunt, like where Dave and I, in our neck of the woods. But they will not let you put up picnic shelters. They will not let you put bathrooms in. They will not let you put any pavement in at all. And that hasn't changed from what I looked at about a year ago.
Village Administrator.
Well, that has been a topic of the conversations that we've been having with them. And I think that there's been a good back and forth between the MMSD staff and the village staff. What MMSD is doing, and many of the programs that, or the properties that they've purchased in the past have been part of the DNR stewardship program and use grant funds from the state. And those grant funds then limit what they're able to do. They do have other funding sources, and from our meetings with them and our conversations about this agreement, they are trying to utilize those other funding sources that have fewer restrictions. This also, I think, although it's not explicitly stated in the agreement, as we've been having these meetings and these conversations, and as we've been expressing what the village is looking for, I think that when a significant property comes up like that, we've opened up the lines of communication that we can work with MMSD, and I think they're willing to work with us to try to identify funding sources for the property that would allow us to achieve what the village wants to do within the goals of the Green Seam program. So they're never going to give us a piece of property and have us build a 100,000 square foot building on it, or pave the entire thing for a parking lot. But they have expressed that as they're purchasing properties, if they know we want to use it for a recreational trail, they'll utilize sources of funds so that, to the extent that they can, that would allow a parking lot, maybe some small structure, and an asphalt
Small
recreational
structure. Yeah,
trail.
exactly. If I may continue, but I think that is something as village board members looking into the future for our community, we have to keep a real close eye on that program. Because they could decide, we're going to purchase Blackstone Creek. I mean, eventually that golf course is going to sell. It's a lot of low land and stuff. But the reality is that is the type of park that would complete not just a trail system, but would be a gem to have downtown ultimately, because it has some highland. We could then put a parking lot in off Mequon Road. A lot of the things that we thought about before still would work. We could not afford it back when we looked at this 10, 12 years ago. But I would hate to see them scoop that up and say you can't do anything and there's no parking. And they will do that. Despite what we're hearing here, they're all about preserving the land so you can take your binoculars and go down a bark path and look at the birds, which is awesome. But we also have other needs in this community. And I'm not talking ball fields, but I'm talking picnic shelters, picnic tables, a toilet, some significant parking. That's what we need as this village grows, not another bird watching site. And I love trees. I love birds. I'm not against any of that. I'm looking at what we need for the future, not for me and what I like, but for the people moving in here and what they need. So I just caution us to be very careful. And if we get a heads up that they're looking at some of these properties that would be plums for us, like including next to Shane Laughlin Park, that is something I would not want to fall into the hands of a Green Seams program. I would co-manage with them, but on our terms, where we are going to have flush toilets, and we are going to have parking for 50 cars. I mean, that's what we need in this community. And I think you'd find a lot of support for that.
Right. And I agree with you on what you're saying and where you're going with it, but there are some limitations as to how involved we can get when you're dealing with a private landowner and their agreement with MMSD. That's between them and Green Seams. We can always have our input, and we can always talk to them about some future plans or possible plans that we've had for that property. But it's hard for us to say, no, we don't want you to buy that, because they've got an agreement with some sort of
No.
private
We just have
property
to
owner.
know what's going on, and then we can react in real
I
time.
think with this agreement, that helps give it more communication to allow maybe that channel to open. Further discussion? Trustee Chan Miller.
So are you saying that they do, Green Seams works with the resident, they buy, example, 100 acres, and then they come to the village and say, give us, the village of Germantown, first right of refusal to collaborate and make it something, or to add a bark path along a road or something as a connector. Is that the kind of agreement this is?
No, the intent of this agreement is basically an agreement that's put in place that's in effect says, hey, Green Seams, we know that you're going to go out there and be looking to buy properties. That's just what you do. That's your mission, right?
Mhm.
When you identify properties here in Germantown, you should be talking with us about your goals, your efforts, and what you're looking at, because there are some properties that we might want to suggest that you use other than DNR stewardship funds to acquire it, to look at maybe, partnering on a purchase with us where they purchase part and we purchase part to allow us to have all of the uses that are there, or some combination thereof, to ensure that we don't run into the situation that Trustee Kaminsky just talked about, that they acquire the land, they've used stewardship funds, and they say, hey, we're willing to give it to you. And it's like, great, but all we get to do is put the bark path and have trees and birds to look at. That's not consistent with how we see some of the areas that we know that they have historically had interest in. And this agreement basically is the agreement that says, hey, we're going to sit down and talk about these properties so that we make sure that we're acquiring them in the appropriate way, to make sure that both of our goals are achieved.
So you're saying that you want to collaborate with them in those areas that someone has identified that might be viable for the village of Germantown to utilize in another way, other than the bark path.
Right.
So that does sound kind of like they're going to buy it, but
Mhm.
we might not get the right. Never mind. I understand.
Further discussion?
One more comment.
Trustee Kaminsky.
I'm going to support this because there's no point in not. Green Seams is going to do what they want to do. I just want us to be really aware to get heads up on anything that they're going to try to purchase. So we have a fighting chance at some point of either expanding an appropriate park. I've named two of potentials for the village. We could do anything we want. And yeah, I mean, it's part of the discussion. But yeah, I would definitely support this because they're going to do what they want. They like to buy spongy property.
Right, and we haven't had any input into those properties, and it has been very restrictive as to anything else that they'd want to be turning over to us, especially up in the Wilderness Park area. So this gets us a seat at the table. Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Nick? Yes. Okay. Motion made. Do I have a second? Second made by Trustee Myers. Discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Not opposed. Motion carries. Then next two items are in closed session, starting with I first, as we just approved, acquisition of Gross Nick property located at North 116, West 15843 Main Street, at West 157, North 11593 Fond du Lac Avenue. Village Board may enter into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85 subsection 1 subparagraph E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating when competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and then re-enter into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. And item H, which is,
Just do a vote on that one, just because I know what's coming, so.
okay. Need a vote or a motion to go into closed session for item I. We're going for I just right now, Trustee Myers. Motion made and seconded to go into closed session for item I. Is there any discussion on that motion? If there's no discussion, we'll do roll call vote, please.
Trustee Rick Miller. Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Jan Miller. Trustee Baum. Trustee Nyrider. Trustee Myers. Oh my gosh. Trustee Myers. Trustee Hudson. Trustee President Walter.
Aye. All right, and who is involved in that closed session?
Should be the Community Development Director, the village attorney, and myself.
All right, thank you. Item H. Motion to go into closed session for item H. Motion made and second, or do I give it a second? Second. Second. Discussion. No discussion?
Who needs to be there?
What's up with H?
I have been told I have to.
Ah. Thank you. Any further discussion to go into closed session for item H? No other discussion. We'll do roll call vote, please.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Baum. Trustee Nyrider. Trustee Myers. Trustee Hudson. President Walter.
Aye. Just for clarification, who is involved in this meeting?
Community Development Director, the village attorney, and myself.
And does Trustee Baum then need to leave the meeting, or can he be within the closed session but not participate?
I would recommend to him, or have recommended, that he would leave the meeting.
Just so everybody understands. All right, before we go into closed session, the next regular village board meeting will be on Monday, July 17th at 7 PM, and that is after July 4th. So once again, all those that are still watching or online with us, please consider volunteering your time, whether it be a couple hours or the whole day would be great. But to help out with the 4th of July festivities, that will be coming up on next Tuesday. Other than that, thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you all for watching, and have a good night.